Full disclosure before I get started, I'm not entirely comfortable talking in front of large groups. I'm also not entirely comfortable crying in public. I'm hoping one of those will counter the other one and I'll be distracted so I can get through this. So I wrote some notes down. I thought I was going to have an outline and talk off my heart, and I realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to happen. So I wrote some notes down. I'm going to go ahead and read through it. So I think most of you all know me. For those that don't, Grant March, I was asked to come up and say some words and share some stories about Dave. It's a tough task. If I told all my stories, we'd be here till next week. It's also tough giving the next speech that Dave should have given as my best man at my wedding with Lori. So this is a little bit of an odd situation to be in. I'm just going to try to share some history, some stories, and hopefully I can give some comfort to others to come up here as well, because I'd love to hear some stories. And if you're not comfortable coming up here, I hope you'll share your stories with me as the day goes on. So, Dave has been my best friend for 27 years. We met at Daniels in the late 80s. He always said it was 6th grade. I would remember being 7th. I'm fairly sure he was right. He was most often right about memories. He had an uncanny ability to remember things and people. I didn't write this down, but the one thing that I always remember from him is he could spot somebody in a crowd of people. And I wouldn't even remember their name, and he remembered them from high school. I think one time, maybe 10 years ago, we were at a Hurricanes game, and he looked over in the section, about 9 sections over, and said, "Isn't that John?" John? Yeah, John from Broughton. And I'm like, "Did you see that?" He was right. So our friendship was forged on sports, golf, video games, childhood shenanigans, and intense arguments on absolutely pointless and irrelevant topics. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know what I mean. At times, an onlooker might think we hated each other. It was Dave. He'd argue with anyone over anything, but it never affected the friendship. He was intensely loyal as a friend. He was confident in his facts and as stubborn as anyone I've ever known. That same confidence in right and wrong seemed to always guide him to do what was right. Our sports allegiances were front and center in our friendship. Vikings or Chiefs in the NFL, Red Sox or Royals in baseball. When we were young, we were always so competitive, we hated each other's teams. It was always an argument of mine better than yours. It was like politics, and neither one was willing to give an inch. As we grew, I think we both started to find excitement in each other's team's success. I'm not sure if that was maturity, or the fact that both of our teams so rarely saw success. We were always together in NCSU, though. Years of disappointment made the sprinkles of success momentous to both of us. As we got into high school, we remained close friends. After my freshman year, I openly talked about joining the marching band. It changed my mind and decided not to. Before I ever told Dave, who had no musical background at all, he'd already joined. I had no choice but to follow him. That pretty much guided our high school career. We shared some great memories, trips to DC, New York, Miami, among others. I remember his creative and comedic part of his personality started to come out there. We both also developed a love for music in high school. Dave became my concert buddy. We were the most unlikely duo to have seen Leonard Skinner 5 times. We saw Allman Brothers, Billy Joel, ZZ Top, the Eagles reunion tour in 1994, and probably dozens of others. After high school, Dave went to NCSU, I went to Charlotte. We stayed close, only briefly losing touch when he studied abroad in Sweden. That was the first of his many bold, unexpected decisions. In 1998, we went to Mardi Gras. This was the start of what kind of became a why not vacation strategy. I wrote in my notes, story optional. I have a Mardi Gras story, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate. If you guys, can I get a nod from the family? So, Dave and I went to Mardi Gras, and it was kind of an odd trip. Neither one of us really had any desire to go to Mardi Gras, but a couple of my friends said that they were going. It was 2 couples. So it was 2 couples and Dave and I. Long story short, after a number of days in Mardi Gras, they got the idea that they wanted to go down to the end of the street and check out a gay bar. It was cool. So Dave and I went in. What really we didn't put together is that Mardi Gras, everything is up 10 levels from where it would normally be, and I'm sure that happens in the normal bars as well. But we wound up at a bar that was so packed full of people we couldn't even move, and I was quickly getting groped by people from behind me, and it didn't feel comfortable. So I'm leaning to Dave's ear, and I'm like, "Dave, we need to get out of here." And he's looking back at me, hoping not to make a scene in the bar, going, "Shut up." So after it got really uncomfortable, somebody comes over and they clearly are making an advance on Dave. And so thinking quickly, I wrapped my arms around him and we became a couple for a couple moments. The awkwardness of the gentleman that was clearly going to make a pass at Dave, kind of changed his mind. He said, "All right, let's go." So Dave was always a part of my closest friendships. After college, I roomed with Amy and Scott. Amy's here today, so not with me if you hadn't moved to Hawaii. After that, both of us grew, and Dave remains close with all of us. After that, I moved in with a couple of Daves. Dave's down in Dave Beach. They're both here as well. Having a dilemma of too many Daves, Dave affectionately got the descriptor of the Crazy Dave. Eventually, he just became known as Cooch. Dave's a natural fit. If you were friends with me, you were friends with Cooch. 2005, Dave decided to chase his dreams and go to Hollywood. When he told me about it, I really thought it was a pipe dream. So he told me he was leaving in 2 weeks. I don't think I ever told him how much I admired him for following his dreams without getting caught up in the doubt. After he moved, we still talk weekly. It was a given we were going to find time when he came to the town, holidays or just random times to see family. Anytime I traveled west, I'd always find a way to catch up with him. Usually some combination of Las Vegas, Los Angeles, or Bakersfield, where I have family. One particular time I flew into Los Angeles to stay with him before heading to Bakersfield. He picked me up at the curbside of the Burbank airport, looked at me and said, "You want to go to Vegas instead?" Sure. His bag was already packed in the car. He knew what I was going to say. So Vegas was kind of the center of a number of interesting stories, but probably not like you think with Dave. Dave's not your typical gambler. He was always way too calculated and way too frugal. He proudly played the nickel slots. On this particular trip, we drove 4 hours into Vegas, and he spent the whole time bragging about how he was going to hit it big on the nickel slots. He wouldn't shut up about it. I lost track of him in the casino for an hour or so. When I found him, honest to God, his slot machine was making noise and the light was flashing. He indeed hit the machine jackpot and was waiting for the attendant to pay out. 2,000 nickels. It was only $100, but he still acted like it was $1 million. In late 2011, I won a big poker tournament with Dave by my side. In 2012, I reinvested it and played in the World Series of Poker. He was so excited and committed to being my support. He met me there. There were 2,500 players. We started at noon. Dave stood at the rope by my table for nearly 14 hours until I was eliminated just before 2 a.m. He disappeared only a couple times, and every time I always found him chatting with people. I remember one of them he was talking to was a random lady. She looked at me and said, "Where'd you find this guy?" I actually got that question a lot through our friendship. Not a day goes by where I don't think of him. This week I was in California. After the last couple weeks where NCSU predictably had disappointing losses. UNC's lost to Duke on Thursday night. Sorry, guys. Those are things that I would text him on. I'm traveling to somewhere he traveled to. Anytime I see a major world event, I think a discussion or argument that is to be framed by Dave. Any major sporting event would be a part of our discussion. All these moments I'm ready to text or call before I remember I can't. This weekend, it's the Viking Redskins. My last text to him was, "You need to get your butt out here for that game," because I live in D.C. now. Dave Downey, Dave Cooch, and I always had a three-way discussion, and we always talked about sports, and it was pretty much a daily, somebody had something to say. In the days immediately after his loss, I just wanted it to go away. I just wanted to forget it and avoid it. Since then, funny things happened. As I deal with it, I find I'm bothered more by the moments that I don't remember than the moments that I do. I want to remember. I find joy in the memories. My memories of Dave are so fond. The happiness in the memory counters the loss. That's a good thing. The late Jimmy V said in his great speech, every day you should do 3 things. You should laugh, you should think, and you should cry. If you do these 3 things, he said, it's a full day. I was wondering about the 3rd. Crying every day? I get it now. It's ironic that Dave, the forever Wolfpack fan, would be the one to help me see that. Dave shaped every part of my life. I could somehow tie almost everything I am in some way. I'll never forget him. I hope you all remember this same one way when I continue to share the story with you. I'm sure I'm missing some major stories. I would love some of you guys to come up and tell some of yours, and if you don't feel comfortable, I'd love to hear them at a later time to fill in the blanks. Thank you.